Good morning. I'm excited about today's show. This is the Google Show. 2 days ago, we did a whole show on Google's Notebook LM, which has the potential for becoming the deep research plus guided learning plus conversational AI assistant with presentation modalities that are multimodal, and it could become a universal product and AI interface for those core purposes, just as ChatGPT has become for chat interaction, the leader, the standard bearer for interaction with LLMs. And yesterday, we covered Gemini 2.5 Flash Image, the product which broke the barriers on editing images, making Nano Banana the principal challenge to the primacy of Photoshop when it comes to image editors. But rewind to just a couple years ago when Google was lambasted by many, including us on this show in 2023 and 2024, for squandering their leading invention of transformers for LLMs by failing to keep up with the rapid development of practical applications, and developed a reputation for overpromising demos and underwhelming real products, putting forward meh competition against ChatGPT and the budding AI search players. And the story was that Google's fundamental business model was being disrupted and Google was fumbling to respond. But now they're in fast forward mode. And today we're going to fast forward your understanding of Google's current position. Welcome to the day. No, it's the Junmi and Andy show today. There's only two of us. The Daily AI Show has got the core team here, and it's August 28th, 2025. And I'm here with Junmi Hatcher. The rest of the team have pressing engagements that have kept them away. And I'm going to lead off the show by taking the look back to what we saw in 2023 and 24. And then Junmi and I are going to walk through just an incredible roster of quality products and benchmark leading developments that Google has put forward, not to mention the sort of the preeminence of Google DeepMind as a leading research lab in all things AI. So let's look back. In February 2023, Google launched Bard, and they did that hastily to compete with ChatGPT, which had just come out. Its initial version was significantly less capable than ChatGPT, and it immediately was given a poor reception. Users noticed inferior performance, and Google's market value dropped $100 billion in one day on this and other news around their poor performance there. They came out, now remember, Google has, like Apple, an enormous ecosystem of users, an enormous installed base of users, not only for their online services, but also for hardware. So the whole Pixel line of telephones is the counterpart to the iPhone ecosystem. And we all know that AI has a very important role on the mobile devices. And a lot of the developments are moving towards putting these things on the local handheld small computer. So they launched their Pixel 8 with a Tensor G3, and it immediately had problems. There were fabrication problems because they used the Samsung 4 nanometer process instead of TSMC's 3 nanometer process. And that led to inefficiencies and performance issues, including they were overheating. There were widespread reports of that phone overheating, making those phones seem unreliable from Google. Then they launched AI overviews in May of 2024, the next year, with dangerous and incorrect answers. The news came out about that overview offering the idea that you should mix chlorine bleach and white vinegar, which creates toxic chlorine gas. Absurd advice like adding glue to pizza sauce. Remember that one? And eating rocks daily for nutrition. And then historical errors like claiming that Barack Obama was the first Muslim president and Andrew Jackson graduated college in 2005. And that was fundamentally undermining Google's reputation as an authoritative information source. How embarrassing for Google. Then Bard, of course, bad branding, bad performance. They started in late 2023 to announce the arrival of Gemini. And this is their attempt to kind of recast the tool suite that AI is within the Google ecosystem. And that got delayed then to 2024 due to multilingual performance issues. And all of this allowed OpenAI to continue to put forward new products, new advancements on their platform that gave it the leadership position. Then you had a Gemini image generation controversy in February of 2024, where, for example, refused to generate images of white people among the founding fathers, right? Remember that? They would have a diverse collection of different images of human sort of racial profiles, if you will, in order to do that. So they ended up with historical inaccuracies like medieval knights and that included people of color, for example. Then they temporarily suspended Gemini's image generation feature, a further embarrassment for them. And then they had AI, just broadly speaking, they had AI training and safety problems that led to all these things, and product strategy confusion. So they had three different kinds of AI assistant: Bard, and then Assistant, and then Gemini, without really clear differentiation of what that progression was. And they had a succession of feature removals. And why does all of this embarrassment matter? Well, that led to OpenAI's leadership. It extended ChatGPT's lead and damaged Google's reputation of even being able to struggle by with basic features. And Apple methodically integrated some smaller advances in the iOS systems that allowed the Apple integrations to appear to have a momentary advantage, and it also shifted from Google to Microsoft the position of being the reliable AI partner. So Microsoft, using OpenAI products, became much more reliable on the enterprise size. Google had a lot of red flags and bad check marks. And so all of that led to OpenAI's leadership, a Microsoft advantage. Apple continued to provide a really consistent system for their iOS system against Pixel's jagged entry. But now they've really turned all these things around. And we're going to talk about a lot of different announcements just in the last several weeks, importantly in the Pixel space, where AI is very important. And the release of that Pixel includes the addition of Tensor G5, a Google-only processor that addresses previous chip performance issues, and it was done with TSMC rather than Samsung. And so it has the latest and greatest parts. Their quality is going to be very apparent when I show you, and I'm going to end my sort of introduction to this show by just sharing with you the LM leaderboard, right? The LM Arena leaderboard, and show you where Google sits today with all of these different aspects of AI. So let me get that set up here. Now I'm going to share my screen over here. It always takes us a couple of seconds to do that. Here we go. This is the leaderboard. And let me add that to the stream here quickly. And tell me when you see it, Junmi. Have you got that? Okay. So this is the LM Arena leaderboard. And this is a really important test for all the models because it's a blind test among hundreds of thousands of users. And go study, if you're not familiar with lmarena.ai, study it. It's the sort of unbiased, blind A/B comparison of different outputs in various domains. And here you see for text chat, who's the leader? Gemini 2.5 Pro. Even GPT-5 High doesn't score very well on text responses. And GPT-5 Chat, the one that you normally interact with, is way down here at the bottom of this top of the leaderboard. Actually, it's not the bottom of the list, but it's well behind Gemini 2.5 Pro. In web dev or coding, GPT-5 High is at the top, and then Claude Opus 4.1, very, very close here behind, but then followed closely by Gemini 2.5 Pro. But now let's see where Gemini is really, really taking the lead in lots of other areas. In vision, Gemini 2.5 Pro at the top of the leaderboard. In text to image, Gemini 2.5 Flash image preview. That's the one that does image edit as well down here. That's the nano banana thing. It's at the top of the leaderboard, but just behind it, Imagen 4.0, which is the latest sort of text to image generator out there. But now you don't even have to do that. You just use 2.5 Flash, and 2.5 Flash exceeds the qualities of Imagen, the text to image specific model out there. Okay, in search, O3 search and GPT-5 search have slight advantages over Gemini 2.5 Pro grounding. Grounding is their setting that makes sure that there is search-based response guidance. Text to video, we got a 4-peat here on Google with their VO3 model, and same with image to video. VO3 is really leading that. Now in Copilot, I'm not sure what Copilot is as distinct from coding, but anyway, Gemini doesn't really even have any of their latest models involved there, and it's actually Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So I'm kind of ignoring this one as being not so important. Now the overall arena overview, let me see if I can get this up here so you can see this better. It's kind of an eye chart, I know, but here's the overall performance. And these are basically tied. Claude Opus 4.1 and Gemini 2.5 Pro are kind of tied for the first position. You can see they all these different areas, are basically number one. GPT-5 High, is failing, going down, quite a ways in longer queries, in creative writing, in hard prompts, etc. So anyway, that's the end of my rant or my opus paean for Google. Google is really a system of choice now, and I'll just end by saying, let me just unshare this. Let me just end by saying, if I were to make a recommendation today to someone who's using AI for free, and what should you do to just pay the minimum, approximately $20 a month, to get access to a full suite of AI capabilities? I might have said ChatGPT before. I would be inclined to suggest Claude because of all the power of Claude, but Claude is really moving primarily towards coding as the basis for their revenue model, although they're very, very, very successful in all their other domains, as you can see in the LM Arena leaderboard. But my recommendation is now go pay for Google. You have a Gmail account probably. Use Gemini in the context of all of the Google app suite, and use the pro version of Gemini. You will not be dissatisfied.
Powerful words and powerful claims, Andy. I'm going to have to take the position of, no, I'm pretty much in agreement.
No. Do the counterpoint. Do the counterpoint.
Okay. So I guess there are a couple of counterpoints, but number one, I agree that Google has made all of the catch up, filled the gap, and is now competing neck and neck with everybody else. That I don't think is a question anymore. In terms of of raw output and capability, I'd say it's pretty much out there from my own personal experiences. I do have a couple of small caveats, and I guess this is what I'll focus on. To counterpoint for what you're saying is a recommendation, I think there is a clear distinction between free and paid. If you're already in the Google ecosystem, you have lots of levers to pull, but it is a myriad. There's just so many different things. So I guess it really needs to approach or you have to create what your approach is. Go in knowing what you want to accomplish. And I guess that's a caveat for all of them. I will say having access to AI Studio for Google is a huge boon. That's still free, right? That's sort of like platform.openai. It's a way that you can just get into the guts. It's not a clean chatting interface, but it does allow you to try the different models.
Oh, it's pretty clean. It's pretty clean.
Well, yeah.
And let me interrupt just
from
for a
our
second.
perspective, but from someone who doesn't know what anything means, it's a little daunting.
You'd quickly learn it though. It's not complicated.
It's not.
Let me just say
I wouldn't say that it's terrible. I'm just saying that it is a great opportunity to dive headfirst in.
But right? Let me just hasten to add that platform.openai.com, which is the platform like aistudio.google.com, that costs money. In order to use platform, you've got to have an API account, and you're going to be charged for that.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true.
Not true for Google.
Yeah, I was more commenting on the UI side of things.
Yeah.
But aistudio.google.com, what that does give you a lot of free access and
big access, a million token context window.
Exactly. And so all you need is a Google account to start using that. Now, once you're in there, you can pretty much try every single model and how it might work for you and things like that. So if you're coming in brand new, like you know nothing, it might be a little bit of a learning curve. But like Andy said, you'll get the hang of it. And of course, if you just watch our show every day, you'll be an expert, no problem. Then you can use anything, right? The other caveat I have is, and this is not necessarily on Google, and this is such a tiny, tiny thing, is be prepared for the ridiculous naming conventions that all of these AI foundational model people come up with their stuff, right? The only reason why we talk about Nano Banana is because it was the code name for it. And guess what? I agree with Andy. Andy said yesterday that was going to stick, and we're just going to call that model Nano Banana. And I agree. And we should force it on them to keep calling it Nano Banana, because now all it sounds like is the dozen other models that are available. Gemini 2.5 Flash image. I don't know. I find that gets lost in the milieu of of all the naming conventions, and I won't even start on OpenAI.
Yeah, I wonder if right now, if you do a Google search for Nano Banana, if it'll give you the link to 2.5 Flash image.
Oh, it hasn't been done already. It should be done now. But again, like I said, these are tiny, tiny little caveats and pet peeves and things like that. For the most part, I agree with Andy. The gap has been filled. They are running neck and neck with everybody else. In terms of leaderboards and benchmarks and things like that, I take that with a grain of salt. There's so many different benchmarks, and there's so many highly tuned versions of certain models to get.
Wait, I want to hasten to interject again. I did not mention a single benchmark. This is only the arena. This is
I understand, but the arena is still people who join LM Arena. That doesn't mean the average person who wants to know how to write their email. All right, so
I don't think it's a closer match to
Yes,
that
I
question
agree that
than
it is
anything
closer.
else out there
I'm
that's
not
a benchmark.
disregarding. I am adding new information. I'm not
Okay, go.
thinking. I'm not countering anything that you're saying. I'm adding new information here. Now, not to complete my statement, the reason I take all of these things with a grain of salt is because these are not real world use cases. These are tests. No matter what they are tests. So, my belief is that you need to have your use cases prepared so that when you try them, you get the results that you're looking for. And that's going to be the best case for, or the best usage or test of anything that you're doing, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Google, whether it's Meta or XAI. How these models work within your use cases is what's most important. That being said, if we're going to talk about what we recommend for users to cut their teeth on, so to speak, or really dive in, your least expensive entry point is Gemini, because Google knows that they have a huge marketplace and market share in terms of what is in people's hands, especially with things like the Pixel phone, right? Android phones are very popular. They have the most actual devices in the world. Gemini being the built-in assistant on every single Android phone, up to a certain generation. And I believe my phone is the oldest one that can do it. I think it's a Pixel 6, which is like, what, 2018? I don't know how old that is. It's forever
That's old.
ago.
That's old for phones.
For phones, yeah, that's super old. I mean, they're on a Pixel 10. That's 4 whole generations, right? Don't they have like an A version? And then, yeah. But suffice it to say, since we're talking about Google, I wanted to move in from the initial history, which is fantastic. So thank you, Andy, for going through all of that. But I wanted to highlight a couple of the big wins that I've seen recently. And I don't know if you want this in chronological order, Andy, but this is AI, so everything happens within a few weeks.
No,
right?
we're fast forwarding to today. So what is it that Google has today that's impressed you?
Okay, so number one, today information, and we were kind of talking about this a little bit just before the show, is A16Z just came out with their latest report of Gen AI usage, or Gen AI app usage, right? Top 10.
And A16Z, by the way, is Andreessen Horowitz, and that's Mark Andreessen, one of the sort of titans of Silicon Valley and AI now.
Yeah,
on the venture capital side.
Right. And so they've been coming out with these reports steadily, and we've done quite a few episodes on their report, and we might do one on this one as well if there's enough info here. But the big draw that I got from the initial scan of the information is the big conclusion is all the other big foundational model companies are catching up in terms of unique monthly usage to OpenAI. So number 2 on all the top 10 lists right now is Gemini. Small caveat. Remember, all of these companies and products, so Google, Meta, and XAI, they have entire platforms and to integrate their products into, opposed to OpenAI. But that's a separate conversation. But the main draw here is to compound upon what Andy was saying before, is all of these other foundational AI companies have essentially caught up, and Gemini specifically. Now, that's probably contribute to that is probably the integration of Gemini as the Android assistant. Gemini eye in all of Google workspaces, both free and business. And that's probably the number one touch point for people who want to use any form of these chatbots or models in their day-to-day life, whether it be personal or work life. And since it's right there, that does make it a lot easier to use and engage with. But I think that's the main takeaway. Now I'll have to dive deeper to see what we can actually, what the real meaty bits of the report are. But that's the initial takeaway, and that just goes to further further highlight how advanced or how progressive Google has become. Now, there's a number of other tools that are our personal favorites. Right now, I am all on the hype train for Nano Banana. I have seen the editing capabilities of what you can do with a single image. Yesterday, I talked about even a simple workflow of using specific images as your keyframes for your scene generation, start to finish, and you can edit those images however you want. Plug that into a VO3 and generate full videos from it. So I hope to have some more examples that we've generated. And I'm sure if Gareth actually joined us today, he's usually in the community. Gareth likes to work on some AI generated video, and he's already done a few. So it'll be nice to see if we can do with Nano Banana as well. And you can always see Gareth and talk to everybody else in the community by going to dailyaishowcommunity.com to sign up for our Slack channel. All right.
Good plug, Jimmy. I love it. Hey, I want to shift over now to one of the biggest impacts of Google's advancements on my behavior. I'm now, for the first time, considering moving away from my iPhone Pro Max. Why? Because while I have ChatGPT and Perplexity and GenSpark agents on the phone, and I get plenty of AI that way, there is not a seamless integration of AI into the other functions of the iPhone yet. And Apple is really behind on this. And so I want to talk about the advance of the Pixel 10 series, which was just announced last week. Okay. And the Tensor G5, this new chip that's powering a lot of the AI that's built into the phone. So one of the things that you need to understand is that that Tensor G5 chip is 60% more powerful as the tensor processing unit than the prior one. And it gives 35% faster CPU performance. And it's the first chip to run Gemini Nano on device. Okay. So now you've got a chip and a small model that's really efficient to do twice as fast AI processing using Gemini Nano on the device. And now what did they do with this new AI capability in the Pixel phone? They've got a bunch of new features. So these are beyond what I've been imagining the, sort of improvements of Siri would be on my iPhone. Okay, they have a feature called Magic Q, proactive suggestions based on the user context, meaning it's watching what you're looking at and what you're doing with the phone, whether you're using the camera and so on. And it is now going to give you, with a local AI, not sending this back to the cloud now, with a local AI running on that chip, it's going to give you proactive suggestions based on that context, what you're doing there. Okay, they're delivering real-time on-device translation. Okay, I went to Japan about a year ago, and I used Google Translate every day to just say something into the phone and then wait for Google to translate it and then show them on the screen what it was. And they would read it, and then they go, oh, and they speak it back, and then I'd turn back the phone and listen to it, or not listen to it, but read what the translation was. That was very janky. This is going to do real-time on-device translation, meaning as you can have an earbud in with the phone, and as they're speaking, it's telling you in English what is being said. Okay,
I love
fantastic.
that feature. I love it.
Call notes with actions. Okay, automatic call transcription with actionable insights as a summary at the end of the call. So you don't have to any longer do voice record or try to figure out how to record a telephone call. Your Pixel 10 is going to do that automagically for you. Here's one that I almost need to buy the Pixel 10, even if I keep my other phone. Personal journal, AI-powered journaling assistants. I don't know what that means, but I'm all about trying to create a legacy record of thoughts and ideas that I have, and have that digestible and interpretable by my AI assistants. Maybe that's something that, it just doesn't exist outside of the app, at the app marketplace on iOS. And then they have advanced on-device fraud prevention. The local AI is going to be helping you detect phony texts, phony calls, and all of that. So, wow, thank you, Google, for all of those things. So you've got these incredible Tensor G5 driven advancements on Pixel. And I'm saying, as tied as I am to, I use MacBooks, I have iPhones. Everybody in my family has iPhones. As tightly as I'm wound into that system, I'm leaning towards Pixel 10 right now.
That's bold. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, because normally once you're in an environment, you're in the environment.
It's hard to move, but I think Google paved the way.
Yeah, that's very enlightening. And strong words, because to move platforms as integrated as the devices are today, being able to say, I think I might move, that definitely makes me, sit up and pay attention. I go back and forth. I've always had different devices for, different tools for whatever the work called for. But in the early days, it was all Mac. And then that platform became more integrated, and then Google's platform became more integrated. And so now I have a mishmash of all kinds of little bits and things. So it's probably easier for me. But if you're fully integrating the platform, yeah, that's definitely a moment of pause. Now, for me, I've been really enamored with the open source side of things. And I don't know, I'm sure all of these features are specific because it's Google hardware, and their implementation of their own Android, because Android is open source in a sense where you can develop it. But there's still some caveats on there. It's not a true open source. And one of the things I'm wondering is, because of these advancements, and now we're seeing this is what I talk about an edge AI case, right? This is a touch point directly to the person. They don't have to actively go somewhere. It's now in their day-to-day lives. Everyone spends so much time on their phone. It directly connects to them. And whether that be garnering their attention, eating up their time, being their productivity device, whatever it is, this makes me wonder, should we have alternatives, to this? So I was looking into something called Graphene OS on the open source side of things to see if it'll run on my phone, because they tend to run on Pixels and things like that. So just as an aside, I would like to see if these, because they're supposed to be run on the hardware, does that mean you can easily port the capabilities because the hardware actually runs it, and it's not supposed to be something really proprietary to the larger platform? That may also be a case to not necessarily pull the plug, but move in between platforms or environments, because having control of the hardware opens up an interesting aspect of just homebrewing things and all those kinds of things. But I completely agree that the Pixel 10 announcements are all of those really big jumps in quality of life things that in some cases you didn't know that you really wanted, but will be super useful to you. I personally love the Translate announcement. I think that's a huge step forward. And I want to see it across the board, not just what we see in Google Translate for the Pixel 10, but I'd love to see Google Translate get upgraded across the board, because Google Translate's an old system. It's kind of one of the basis of natural language processing and forays into that technology. So I'd love to see if Google Translate as a tool across all of their touch points gets improved like this, whether or not it runs on local device or whatnot. So that's my big takeaway. Besides, of course, Nano Banana. So I'll shut up about that.
No, I think people are going to be talking about that all the time. So I wanted to mention also, in addition to the on-device things, they have an advanced conversational AI called Gemini Live. So that's primarily a mobile-focused conversational AI experience, and but it's not limited to the mobile device, and you can use it on desktop as well. So it has a voice-centric design. It's not largely a text thing with read aloud or whatever. It's hands-free conversations, typical for mobile usage. Here in California, it's a $560 fine if you're caught with your phone in your hand while you're driving. So now I can just have the Pixel 10 sitting on my dashboard and just speak to it, rather than having to pick up my phone and figure out which app to select and all of that. It has real-time visual guidance features that overlay information directly on your not your iPhones, on your phones, your Pixel phones camera feed. And it has, all the best conversational cues, like interrupting conversations to send messages or make calls, but then recapturing the conversation. It's going to be a very, very patient and polite and competent voice assistant, is my guess. And importantly, it's completely and deeply integrated with the other Google apps that are on your phone, and which I tend not to use on my phone, although I use them on my desktop all the time. Calendar, Keep tasks, or Keep and tasks, messages, phone, clock, maps, all those things, all accessible through voice interaction with the Pixel phone. So will it be available on iOS, Gemini Live? Yeah, but with later rollout, like wait a year and with some feature limitations.
I did want to just take a second when you said if you're caught driving with your phone in your hand, it's a huge fine, and you just want to plug in your Pixel into your car. And that just got me to think, it's like, oh man, when are they going to have car kit packages where you could just upgrade the or use the car's CPU and maybe a LiDAR package or something, and then you can just plug your phone in no matter what car you have, and it can drive it for you, so you never have to worry about the fine again. But again, a side note. All right, so we've covered how Google got to where it's at. We've covered Pixel 10. Now, is there any other high priority Google news that you want to make sure we cover? Because I've got one. We kind of covered it. We kind of did a mini episode on it yesterday, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it today.
Well, I think it's worthwhile me just sharing my personal experience with AI Studio and Gemini 2.5 Pro as a coding assistant.
Great. Yeah.
I spend what time I can afford away from my other responsibilities, doing vibe coding using the lovable.dev platform primarily. But I'm in the process now with Carl Yez's recommendation of trying to learn, add on top of that in the limited time that I have, now figure out how to use Claude code inside Cursor and shift my sort of development environment over to Claude code with Cursor. And nonetheless, in lovable.dev, though I don't have a direct access to a command line interface, and so I'm not coding directly, I'm always using the assistant. That's just the way the Lovable platform works. They upgraded to Claude 4 as their coder. So I have a side-by-side possibility of comparing what Claude 4 is recommending in bug chasing and feature enhancement and all those other things in a pretty complex app that I've been working on for many, many months. And it'll make some recommendations, but I ended up not being satisfied with the, let's call it, 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach that is delivered by that coding agent within the Lovable platform. And so I started using AI Studio and Gemini 2.5 Pro. I would give it all the information that Claude was getting by copying over the console logs on the browser for what the interaction with the application was at the browser level. I would give that to Gemini, and I would give it what Claude 4 was saying should be done. And without exception, maybe one time, Gemini 2.5 Pro had to come back and say, yeah, in this case, Lovable was right, right? They did something better than I suggested in this thing. And that was an honesty that I appreciated about Gemini 2.5 Pro. But what I wanted to say is that I developed in this sort of realm of a human comprehension of what the conversational style and sort of intellectual representation is of a model. In the conversations with Gemini 2.5 Pro, I found myself relating to that one as a much more adult and capable and just natural language assistant to me. And I really appreciated that personality that Gemini 2.5 Pro had, on top of the fact that it was almost invariably guiding and directing Claude into what should be done in this situation rather than what it had suggested be done, which was in many cases just overblown and prone to introducing a wide range of errors that would complicate my life unnecessarily. And Gemini knows how to kind of strip that down, even though it's not inside the application. It had enough information and the million context window to understand, what I was working through and to guide me and give me literally copy and pastable instructions to Lovable to do that. And that became my way of working. So I have a relationship with Gemini 2.5 Pro, and I can attest to its clarity, its reasonableness, and its competence across the board. And I really enjoy, as you saw in the LM Arena, that humans evaluating the chat interface. Just what do you get back as conversation from each of these models? Being able to compare them side by side without knowing which is which in the blind arena context. Gemini 2.5 is way ahead of even ChatGPT or Claude in its ability to converse with you. So I think, again, I just wanted to highlight that Gemini 2.5 Pro, you're not playing with dozens of different models here as you might, and ChatGPT 5 is trying to follow the same trajectory, right? Centralizing on one model suite, GPT-5, with additional thinking and image creation and all of that. Gemini 2.5 Pro does all of that, and now you've got Gemini 2.5 Flash. That's a smaller model image and that's the leader. That's Nano Banana. And so they're all in the Gemini 2.5. What's going to happen when DeepMind's advanced research gets applied in the Google ecosystem to Gemini 3.0? You know, we were disappointed.
Maybe the personality that you've liked so much is going to be gone, and that it'll be a much more immature personality.
No, don't lose it. Yeah. Anyway, so I think unless you have anything else to wrap up with, this has been largely me gushing about Gemini 2.5. And
right, I think we can safely say that Andy Halliday likes Google Gemini. Yes, I think that is a safe that is a safe assumption that we can make. Yeah, well, I don't have really anything.
Add from the chat. I just saw this because Gareth is, you know, as you mentioned, he's someone who works closely with image generation, and he just said, I will say, Nano Banana breaks pretty quickly. That he just mentioned in the chat. And I have seen reports of how you can kind of mess up an image with, you know, ineffective prompting with Nano Banana. So remember, 2.5 images just released, like how many days ago? Like 3 days ago, something like that. It's going to get better and better. And I think that's the big takeaway from today's show, is that Google, while it stumbled at the outset, is relentless in its improvement and its quality delivery of products that really hit the mark. And I think you can't fail by, you know, investing in Google, whether you're an enterprise or whether you're an individual. And I'm not talking about dollar investment. I'm talking about the investment we all make in time and attention to learn how to use these things practically. You can't fail, you know, going with Google. Google is not going to disappoint you in the long run.
Well, on that, yeah, I have nothing to add. I think all of the points that you made are salient. I am really interested to hear more about what Gareth has to say about slipping on the Nano Banana peel, though that was a joke.
That's a good one. I love that. And yeah. By the way, Gareth, I didn't mean your prompting was bad. I saw examples of real big breakage where it was clear that you know, you could correct it by you would be forced to correct it by advanced prompting techniques. And I know you have the skills in that area, Gareth. So you can break it easily, but you're probably stumbling across those things that are poor about Nano Banana now. I just hope that they figure out quickly how to fix those things.
All right, Andy, take us out.
Yeah, so let's close it out. Thanks for joining us today. This has been the Google Show, or the Junmi and Andy Show, one of those two. And join us tomorrow. Tomorrow's kind of our rando wrap-up day. We address a number of subjects that, you know, have piqued our interest and our attention that we weren't able to cover in other shows. And I have a number of things that I want to talk about tomorrow. In addition, as Junmi pointed out earlier in the show, feel free to go over to the dailyaishow.com and sign up for our newsletter. It's a very well edited digest of information that you can read just on Sunday morning while having your coffee. And just by reading that one newsletter alone, you'll stay fully abreast of what we talk about every day, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern here on YouTube Live with our incredible crew of DAS community members. And you can join them on our Slack, our free Slack system. It's out there for your community use, and it's at the dailyaishowcommunity.com. With that, Junmi, take us away.
Aloha.